They don't have to send a notice of default. They don't have to record a trustee sale or anything. All they have to do is pay their $350, serve you with a lawsuit, and boom, you're off to the races. So what's junior? Or I'm sorry, what's a recourse, non-recourse? Well, the easiest way to tell that is a non-recourse. Pretty much, I mean, for your guys' purposes, is a purchase money note, the actual note that you took out to buy the house. You refinance that note, it's no longer non-recourse, it's now recourse. Maybe your seller took out 2 notes to purchase the property. That was pretty common in the 05-06 time frame, right? You know, an 80-20 and 90-10, and that second obligation was a HELOC, but the entire HELOC was used to purchase the property. Well, that's still a purchase money note, okay? Because it doesn't matter what you call it. If the money was used to purchase it, that's fine. But what happens if your seller paid that down, or paid a portion of it down, and then bought something else? That portion that they paid down and then used to buy something else, that's recourse. Things like that. So, so when you've got these dueling lien holders, you got to watch out for that second, because if they hold a recourse note, they actually kind of sit in the catbird seat, because they don't really want to foreclose on the property. They know there's not enough equity to really do anything. What they want is for that senior lien holder to foreclose, and for them to just be able to sue directly and go after those personal assets. So watch out for that. But let's say we have this though. Let's say that junior lien holder is a pretty nice guy. He's a pretty good bank, and he says, "Yeah, I don't really want to do that. What I'd really like to do is just put some cash in my pocket right now." So I understand the senior isn't going to give me more than $5,000, but I got a $100,000 loan. I can't take 5% of that. But what I will do is I'll take 10%. Okay, that I can justify. So let's do $10,000, and let's not even get the senior involved in this. Just pay me outside of escrow. We'll wait till the thing closes, and somebody can just pay me outside of escrow. That's cool, right? No, of course not. That's horrible. Why is that bad? It's bad because the senior lien holder agreed to the deal on certain conditions, and that condition was that the junior only receive X, $5,000. Whether that's right, whether it's wrong, whether it's good business sense, is irrelevant, because it's what was told to that guy. What was told to the senior was, we'll do the deal on these terms. If the deal closes and the senior finds out that there was more money in the deal than he was told, he can do a number of things. He can try to unwind the sale. He can sue the seller to basically reinstate his security interest, which is not going to actually, and he'd be suing the buyer too, because the buyer is now the beneficial owner of the house. So if that happens, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of moving pieces to these types of lawsuits, because the buyer is going to be upset. He's got a lender that's trying to unwind the sale, or at the very least put another put another note on the house. You got a seller that's probably being sued for fraud because they told the lender something that wasn't true. They said, "Look, this is all the money that there is in the deal." Well, it wasn't. There was another $5,000. Most of these lenders are federally insured. What do we call that when you defraud a federally insured lender? We call it defrauding a federally insured lender. It's the worst possible thing you can do, because it gets the FBI involved. And you might be thinking to yourselves, okay, well, this is all legal rhetoric, and this is all worst case scenario. It's not. This stuff is actually happening. There are banks that are out there that are suing sellers because they have found out that the sellers and the buyers and the brokers and the agents got together and paid money outside of escrow and did all these things to put money into the second or the third or whatever's hands that they didn't know about, and now they're suing. So that is out there. Same goes when you have a junior that says, well, let's do this. Let's just close the transaction. I'll reconvey my note for the $5,000 that's being offered to me, and then I'll sue you afterwards for the balance. But wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What we'll really do is we'll just settle for an extra, for the extra 20, and you can pay me as part of the settlement, right? Because that's my right. I can file a lawsuit against you. I'm a sold-out junior, so I can do this, and it's your right to make me an offer, and we can settle. That sounds good, right? No, again, it's not, because it's an agreement that was reached prior to the close of escrow. So it doesn't matter if you wrap it up in a pretty bow or whatever, it's still information that isn't being communicated to the senior lien holder. So make sure whenever you are dealing with a junior and you've got that clash, that loggerheads between the first and the second, if you can't make it go away, if you can't settle it, the deal is just not going to close. But don't pay money outside of escrow. Don't be involved in little shenanigans where there's going to be a secret settlement after the close of escrow and all that. Because sure enough, when that seller gets approached by the lender, a law firm for the lender, an FBI agent, whatever it is, after that close of escrow, the first thing they're going to do is say, my agent told me to do it. Or at the very least, my agent knew about it and didn't tell me I shouldn't do it. So you're going to get dragged into some sort of an issue there. So anyway, don't do any of that. That's kind of my short sale. I can't really say it's a do and don't. It's mostly don'ts, but that's just the bummer about having me here. I'm always here to tell you what you can't do. Anyway, so any questions on that before we move in? Yes, you had your hand up first.
I actually have two questions.
Okay.
The negotiator is not a real estate broker or agent, but they're an attorney.
That is. If you want to use somebody for that, yeah. I mean, you can certainly, a seller can certainly hire a lawyer to negotiate on their behalf. I mean, if the lawyer feels, I'm sorry?
Can these agents hire
The agents can, yeah. The issue that you have with that is the following. When you've got somebody negotiating for your seller, they're the fiduciary of that person. Which is why it works real well with agency, because you can actually have that licensed short sale negotiator sign an agency agreement with that seller. And remember, if you're doing short sale negotiations and you're a licensed agent, you are an agent in the transaction. The DRE is going to consider you an agent in the transaction. So what does that mean? I mean, that means you have the same duties that any other agent has, right? You've got to do a diligent visual inspection. You've got to point out red flags. You've got to do all this stuff. Now, okay, so do you literally have to do that if the listing agent has done it? No. There is case law that says agents don't have to double track if they're on the same side of the deal. I mean, you can co-list a property with somebody and say, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. As long as the job gets done, it's fine. But if you're doing this, if you're acting as a short sale negotiator, you are putting a lot of faith in the other two agents in the transaction. So if you're doing this, and you've got an agency relationship with the seller,
we're not doing this.
Okay. All right. Enough said on that. But anyway, I actually didn't answer your question. So I'm getting back to that. Is it okay for you to hire a lawyer that's going to work on behalf of the seller? It is, but make sure your paperwork is, make sure your paper trail is covered, because you're going to be hiring a lawyer whose job it is to negotiate for and on behalf of the seller. So that lawyer should, if he's doing things right, be looking out for that seller's best interest, but they're going to be getting paid ostensibly by you. So you've got to make sure that you've got an agreement, with the attorney and with the seller, so everybody knows. Attorney, you owe your duty to the seller. Attorney, you're getting paid by the broker, but there's not going to be any shenanigans in there. But so as long as you do that, and
the buyer be paying the attorney?
The buyer, that you're starting to get a little bit on the cutting edge at that point, because now you've got a buyer whose job it is to get the best price for the property, and whose all their interests are 180 degrees away from the interest of the seller, but they're paying for a lawyer to give the seller advice. I would stay away from that if I were you. So that, I don't know if I answered both parts of your question or just one.
Well, and the other question was just in our state passed legislation that there can't be this recourse or refinance property.
No, that only passed the Senate 2 weeks ago. It's coming up in the House committee hearings this week.
Hey, there you go. There's your legislation. legislative update. I know that there is law. Yeah, there are laws in the works, emergency legislation and all that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, as of right now, no. Okay, I'll take one more on this, and then I want to move on. Go ahead.
You talked about the HELOC, that if somebody